More stories. Wikileaks has revealed that founder Julian Assange has left the UK after reaching a deal with US authorities. The deal will see him plead guilty to criminal charges and go free. We have more details in this report.
Wikileaks founder Julian Assange has been freed and left Britain after striking a plea deal with US authorities, ending his nearly 14-year legal ordeal. Assange was wanted by US authorities on charges connected to Wikileaks' publication of hundreds of thousands of sensitive materials and government documents supplied by former Army intelligence analyst Chelsea Manning in 2010 and 2011. Wikileaks revealed that Assange was freed on bail from prison in London, where he has been held for 5 years as he fought extradition to the United States, which sought to prosecute him for revealing military secrets. He has agreed to plead guilty to a single count of conspiracy to obtain and disseminate national defense information, according to a document filed in court in the Northern Mariana Island in the Pacific. For years, the U.S. has argued that the Wikileaks files, which disclose information about Iraq and Afghanistan wars, endangered lives. Meanwhile, reactions have continued to trail this development. His wife Stella spoke in a pre-recorded video confirming that her husband has been released.
It's Wednesday, the 19th of June, and it's exactly 12 years today since Julian went into the Embassy of Ecuador, which granted him political asylum, protection from persecution, from torture, from a life imprisonment. And 12 years on, I'm visiting Julian in a high-security prison. But this period of our lives, I'm confident now, has come to an end. And I think that by this time next week, Julian will be free.
Similarly, Julian Assange's brother, while reacting, says this development will aid in the recovery of his brother.
Well, his health has been deteriorating. He has a few different conditions health-wise, but I think now is a chance for him to rest and recuperate. And we've been told by the doctors who assessed him that he can recover from this. So I think that's the time for him now, is to rest and to recover. But we're just so, as Julian's family, we're overjoyed, we're overwhelmed that he is finally free. This has been an incredibly long campaign with many millions of people around the world advocating for Julian. The Australian government has been very much a part of this at these final moments. They're the only government who can represent Julian at a diplomatic level. So
Australian politicians from across the political spectrum have also welcomed the news of Assange's release and return to his home country.
It could be one of two things, or two most likely things. Number one, this is just the end of a very long process that just took a long time to play out, or something has changed behind the scenes that we don't know about yet.
There's no evidence that anything he did was illegal. It's really important to say that. The decision he's made, I respect 110%, but there is no indication that anything he did as a journalist, as the head of Wikileaks, was illegal in any sane understanding of that word.
Mr Assange is an Australian citizen. He's entitled to consular support, and that support, I'm sure, will be ongoing. And this matter has dragged on for far too long. So I'm hopeful that we'll see a resolution.
I think when the history is written, we'll go back to other heroes of freedom of the press and freedom of speech, such as Tom Paine, that's his record. Look, he's a brave man. He's an unusual man. Ordinary people do not do what Julian did. They didn't know how to use the WikiLeaks revelations.
Julian Assange is set to face a final court hearing after reaching a plea deal with US authorities that brings to close his year-long legal drama. Assange rose to prominence with the launch of Wikileaks in 2006, creating an online whistleblower platform for people to submit classified materials such as documents and videos anonymously.
I have joining me on World Now global affairs analyst Benga Onifade to discuss the developments around Wikileaks founder Julian Assange. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Onifade.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. It's been a long 12 years for Julian Assange as he fought extradition to mainland U.S. He's now set to plead guilty and live a free man. What do you make of that?
I mean, it's, excuse me, it's more like a chicken and egg, really. It depends how you want to see it, because we've got the freedom, the World Freedom Press, organization. They are saying, of course, Biden wants this to pass on. Obama in his administration, of course, supports press's free deal. And of course, we're talking about Julian Assange, who hasn't done anything different at all to what, the major press organizations around the world are doing every day. But on the other hand, the United States are saying, he has endangered people's lives. I think, even as like yesterday, the former Vice President Mike Pence of United States said there should be no plea deals to avoid prison for anyone that endangers the security of the United States military or the national security of the United States ever. Plain put, period. But if you look at it as well, I think there's election coming on. There's been so much time which has passed on, and I believe Biden wants this to pass and he can focus on everything, really. I think you might have thought about it as well, because Biden, who was a vice president and of course an advocate of majority of what Obama does, they advocate free speech, really. They haven't actually butted in, but they did actually, or their lawyers did, they were seeking assurance. Assange's lawyers were seeking assurance that, there will be no death penalty. They were seeking assurance in terms of what United States would do had extradition been granted. And United States, they did give, the odd assurances here and there, but, you can't really say. And then this 175-year jail term, which I believe they do not support on their term. So, we will say plea deal is what people are thinking is the worst case here that could happen. And I think, well, I mean, on a personal note, I think it's probably just about fair, which is what everyone is actually looking at this. And of course, they think it's politically motivated. But, with, like you mentioned, this has been going on 12 years, too long. He's been in prison for what? 1,901 days, or whichever way you want to say. So it's been way too long. I think they just want to put it to bed.
12 whole years, really. And, Julian Assange, as you've inferred, is actually being celebrated by some, and he's been reviled by others. On which side are you?
I mean, it depends, really. I am a citizen. Of course, we all want free speech. But at the same time, some documents are classified for certain reasons, really. And, because, the government is right in certain instances. Of course, people's lives might be, might be at risk. It could jeopardize certain things if, so you do get classified documents. Some of them get released, but of course, we're talking 50, 100 years. And some of them never get released at all for reasons best known to them. We're talking about national security, which are looking after myself and, citizens around the world, really. Yes, of course, we do want free speech. We do want people to be responsible. I think if you look at what Assange did, he released some details, some video evidence, which you could actually see online now with, should I say, the United States military, who committed some atrocities, and it was released. And of course, he did again release some information. I think one of them, for example, if I remember vividly, was we had some details of some military organization here who are not supposed to be in any political party, but you do have people even in the NHS supporting the far right, and they do not supposed to do that. But unfortunately, because the details are published, I remember reading online many years ago, then, this person who I think is probably a female saying, "Oh my God, my life is at risk. What would I do right now?" So yes, right. It's quite hard to be able to balance these things. But again, you want to put them out there for free, it endangers the lives. But at the same time, you want to put them to the government, who will tell you, well, we are protecting these people and these things might get swept under the carpet. So it's a real difficult balancing act. I think I'll leave that to the lawyers and the judges.
All right. And, listening to Julian's wife there saying this period of our lives is finally over. I'm trying to imagine the experience, his family had all through this travail, and finally they can get to reunite with him and bond again as a family. How do you see that play out in the coming days?
God, there's only so much a man can take. I remember Assange, fresh face, long head. We talking 2010 back then. He was a hero, and of course he had other people supporting him. We had Chelsea Manning, or now known as Chelsea Manning, who supported him, and I can't remember the other guy now who, eventually went to Russia. The American guy, he's now got a Russian citizenship. So, and of course he has quite a few hardcore supporters. I remember driving in London a few times outside Belmarsh, and I see his supporters. I have actually, got some of the newsletters before, and I've actually read through this thing. Feels like they're fighting a fair fight. And then again, we're talking about, this is a man I watched, all that sudden, he went to Ecuadorian embassy. He was there for a good 7 years. A man being held in the sitting room, and he couldn't go beyond the corridor. You had the police officers in the UK outside the Ecuadorian embassy for a good, I think about 5 years every day. I think it was the cost taxpayers about 10 million pounds. Literally had nothing. And then, of course, Stella Morris, who eventually was able to marry him, and he was able to father 2 children while behind the wall. The children have never been able to have physical contact. Well, they probably had physical contact, but he's always been behind bars. So now he's been able to get the exact same freedom, and now he's actually frail, I believe, based on what his brother said. His health is suffering. His hair is now being cut short. It looks grey. He's not as fit or agile as he was back then, based on the videos we can see. So, I believe he just wants that freedom. He's back in his homeland. He could get the good sunshine, and there's a lot to unveil and unpack in these little things I've just said. But again, in a nutshell, nothing is beyond freedom. You will give me £1 million right now, and we just tell you, do you know what? I'm just happy to get this freedom.
Indeed, Mr.
So,
Nefadi.
yes.
Yeah, freedom is freedom, and there's nothing that can be like freedom. Thank you so much for talking to us about this. Julian Nefadi is Global Affairs Analyst, and he joined us from London in the United Kingdom.